Welcome to The Intuitive Therapist with Janice R. Cohen, therapist, clairvoyant, empath, and medium. Listen in as she takes a no-nonsense deep dive into real human struggles and how to resolve them. Janice will share channeled information from her spirit guide team, as well as angels and archangels, to help you master your emotional, physical, financial, and spiritual destiny. And now, Janice R. Cohen.
Welcome to the Intuitive Therapist Podcast. I'm Janice Cohen, the Intuitive Therapist, and I am so glad that you're here today because I'm going to talk about a topic that's near and dear to my heart: resistance. I've experienced resistance in my life in many instances when I've attempted to improve my life or deal with something that seemed uncomfortable, and many times resistance won. Deep down, I knew that I gave in and I gave up to resistance. I either became too intimidated, too scared, or too discouraged because resistance got the best of me. As I sit here and talk to you today about this, I can think of hundreds of times that I actually sat down to do something that was important to me in my business or in my personal life, only to hear my critical voices turn up the volume and drown out my desires to achieve bigger and better things that were actually good for me. And the weird thing is that I had no idea what was happening. All I knew was that I became distracted so easily when I would sit down to do something. It would feel like a huge pull to check my email, clean up my house, take a break, or start doing something that was easier than what I intended to do. It was like carbon monoxide poison was being released over the years in my head, and my dreams were silently being killed one at a time. I work with clients all of the time who feel resistance, and even when I explain to them what it is and what they can do to stop experiencing it, some of them feel too immobilized already to conquer it. What's funny is that I knew what I felt, but it wasn't registering consciously in my mind. All I knew was that I kept being delayed and redirected and brainwashed into believing that there were more pressing things to do than what I had planned. I didn't understand it, but I did. And I know that sounds weird, but it's true. I knew it, but I didn't know it. But once I figured out what was going on and I consciously chose to understand what was happening, I decided to make friends with it. I know that sounds weird too, doesn't it? But I actually did. I made friends with resistance, and I used it to move forward. And what happened in my life was nothing short of miraculous. Today we're going to talk about the ins and outs of resistance. I'm going to break down what resistance is and how it shows up for you every time you plan to do something good or important for yourself. And I'm also going to show you how you can kick resistance's ass when it shows up, once and for all, because I can tell you it is very sneaky. Let me ask you a question. How many times have you ever wanted to do something to better yourself, to better your business or a relationship, and even your health, and you got sidelined and distracted from moving forward with it, or even taking the first step? For example, let's say you need to develop a talk for a speaking engagement coming up, and you'll find every reason not to write that talk until you absolutely have to. And even when you sit down to finally write that talk, you're checking your email, looking on Facebook, or checking Twitter. What about exercising or eating healthier? Have you ever noticed how that voice talks you out of doing these things? You know, these things that are good for you? Did you ever take a moment to realize the bevy of thoughts that were streaming through your mind at the time? Probably not. And that's because resistance was working its magic on you and found yet another way to get you off track so that you play small in the world and in everything you do. Maybe you were conscious of your thoughts and realized how worried you were of what people would think of you, or whether or not you would succeed, or whether or not that thing that you were about to show the public was perfect enough to show it. Resistance talked you right out of doing it. And it told you all kinds of ridiculously powerful things that made you stop in your tracks. You may have heard your mind telling you something like, you might as well not even begin to start that project. You know it's way too big and we already feel overwhelmed as it is, so don't even try it. Or maybe it says, wait, you're sitting down to do what? Write a book? Are you kidding me? What is so important that you have to say that people are going to want to read about? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. I cannot even believe you think you could write a book. Don't you know that only experts write a book? That is so funny. Wait a minute. There's the buzzer. It's the dryer. Yep, time to fold the laundry. What's funny is that you most likely didn't even realize that it was going on inside your head. Resistance shows up so fast and so furiously and so insidiously that we don't even know we've been hacked until we're so off track that we can't recover. It's like you've been carried away by the ocean's undertow, and before you realize it, you're miles and miles and miles away from shore. You wonder how you got there and how the hell you're going to get back. Trust me, you aren't the only one that has struggled with this. Anyone who wants to accomplish anything worthwhile experiences resistance. I had no idea how much control resistance had over me. All I knew was that how easy I stayed away from doing things that were important for me, even if it was something that I considered small, like cleaning my house or calling people back to schedule sessions. It's crazy how creepy resistance is and the kind of power it has to truly destroy us. One day I was looking into a program to develop my business, and the woman who was offering that program made a short video about it. Although I didn't purchase her program, I did listen to the video. And in the video, she mentioned a book that changed her life, and it rang a bell for me, so I thought, why not check it out? I said, what do I have to lose? If I don't buy the book, I'll just add it to the pile that's sitting in the corner. But I couldn't deny it to myself any longer. I could really use a life adjustment right about now. So I ordered the book, and I was eager to read this magical scripture that this woman was talking about. Turns out that it was amazing. It was magical. It was pivotal. And it was life-changing. It has become a book that I share with almost all of my clients, hands down, and I go back to it again and again and again to keep me focused and committed to accomplishing what I need to accomplish. Steven Pressfield wrote the book called The War of Art. It is one of the most amazing books that you will ever read. If you truly want to change your life and get things done, then you have to read this book. And he has two other accompanying books with this one. One is called Turning Pro, and the last one is Do the Work. And I promise you, if your resistance doesn't get in the way of you finishing this book, I guarantee you'll thank me for telling you about it. This book, The War of Art, unabashedly unveils what resistance is and how to conquer it. Today, I'm highlighting some of my takeaways from the book because Steven Pressfield is a magical writer, and I couldn't think of any other way to help you finally, once and for all, understand what happens when resistance shows up. Mr. Pressfield writes, we have two lives, the life we live and the unlife within us. I have never met a person who didn't struggle with something, writing a book, making videos, speaking publicly, losing weight, dating. Maybe you wanted to become a doctor, a lawyer, or start a business. Perhaps you wanted to start a diet or begin a new health regimen. Maybe you want to study something spiritual or take a class. There have been so many times for me, and I am sure many times for you, where you've been up late at night or daydreamed during the day, thinking about or envisioning the person you might become one day, the work you could accomplish one day, and the person you were meant to be. And you came up against that thing, that feeling, that heavy, dark presence that lets you know that you need to keep your dreams dreams, because what you think you want to do ain't going to happen for a ton of reasons. It's like in 1 second you become excited about an idea, and then in the next second, it's as if that strict, rigid homeroom teacher catches you daydreaming and smacks you on the back of your head and tells you, get back to doing what I told you to do. Play small. Don't imagine anything is possible, and definitely don't ever think that you can accomplish anything that you were just thinking about. What's funny is that all of that conversation doesn't happen between you and somebody else. it happens in your head so fast that you don't even realize it's happening. It happens at lightning speed. I liken it to meeting the most charismatic, smooth-talking guy who walks right over to you, and all he has to do was look into your eyes, and you're hooked, line and sinker. That's what resistance is. It is so damn charming in a real weird way, though. It's strong, tells you it knows best, and convinces you that you don't need to take care of that right now. We'll do that later. Resistance is real, and it is the most toxic force on the planet, next to hate. It's deadly. It kills dreams. It cripples and disfigures us. Resistance is the enemy. But here's the deal, y'all. We can learn a hell of a lot from our resistance. So I want you to pay close attention to what I tell you today. Resistance is that voice in your head that tells you to go fold the laundry or play that game on your phone just when you sit down to write your book. Resistance is that voice in your head that tells you that you've already screwed up royally by eating that lasagna for lunch, so you might as well eat the cake for dessert. Resistance is that voice in your head that tells you that you can't be as successful as somebody else because you don't have the money, the body, the beauty, the brains, the skill, the resources, or the wherewithal to make it happen for yourself, because you haven't been able to do anything important in your life up until this point. Think about the minute you decide to step up to your dreams. You might be on a high, and then what happens? Bam! Resistance takes over immediately, and it tests your will and your commitment. It says, will she notice me sneaking inside her head? Will she put up with me today like she always does? If she challenges me, all I need to do is turn up the volume a little bit on her worries and concerns. That'll stop her in her tracks. Yep, that usually does the job. If I make her feel insecure enough, she'll give up like she always does, and I'll have won again. Resistance shows it immediately anytime we do something that will propel us forward. It lets us know that we're on path, that we're getting ready to break through our barriers, that we're changing, evolving, and challenging ourselves. The mere fact that you're listening to me talk about this today means that some part or all of you must be truly sick and tired of feeling that you're just a decision away from reaching your goals, but that you give up when it's hard. I get it more than you know. You see, I had to learn how to recognize resistance in order to get it out, to evict it of my life. It's like that fly that won't go away no matter how hard you swat at it. Your job is to get that fly swatter or that boxing glove or that favorite shoe of yours and squash it to death. It's time for you to kick resistance's ass, and hard. I've given you examples of what resistance is, but let's tap into Mr. Pressfield's brilliant explanation of resistance. I'm going to talk to you about just 9 characteristics of resistance that Mr. Pressfield writes about. Resistance is invisible. You can't see it, touch it, hear it, or smell it. It's felt. It is internal. It is self-generated and self-perpetuated. It is insidious. It will do anything it can to keep you from doing your work and will assume any form. It lies and it has no conscience. It's implacable. It can't be reasoned with. It is impersonal. It doesn't know you and it doesn't care. It acts subjectively. It's infallible. It will never fail unless you use it as a compass. And understand that the more important your call to action is, the more resistance you'll feel. It is universal. Everyone struggles with it. It is fueled by fear. It has no strength of its own. We feed it with power by our fear of it. It is most powerful at the finish line. Resistance knows we're about to beat it, so it hits the panic button. Just think about the times that you've procrastinated, all of the times that you didn't finish what you started, and all of the times that you never even began to do something because you suddenly got cold feet. This is how your dreams die. So it's now time to fight back and take your life back. It's time to find out how to fight resistance. Fighting resistance is a conscious process, and you have to crush it every time it rears its ugly head. I mean, squash the shit out of it. Every time you finish a task that matters, you have resisted resistance, and that is the whole goal here. You have to choose to defy it every time it shows up. Imagine if I came up to you as resistance, and as you began to write an article or that book, or you were getting dressed for an exercise class, or getting dolled up for that date that you were going on for the first time. And I said to you, "Good Lord, what are you thinking of? Are you serious? Look, I have something better for you to do. No, you can't wear that. No, you really do. You do look fat. I wouldn't even go out now. No, seriously, look at what I have for you to do. Come sit down. I have this ice cream. Oh my gosh, our show's on. We can't record it, so let's sit and watch it." Call and cancel on that guy, because you know you won't like him anyway. You're not ready. Remember, you told me so. You're not ready. So let me hold you and comfort you and keep you safe and hug you to sleep. This is resistance. So what would you do if I came up to you and I said those things? Would you give up easily? Or would you look at me like I was out of my freaking mind and tell me to go F off? When resistance shows up, you have to choose in that moment what you're going to do. Are you going to give in or kick it to the curb? Socrates says, "The truly free individual is free only to the extent of his own self-mastery, while those who will not govern themselves are condemned to find masters to govern over them." Here's a different way that resistance shows up. Have you found yourself criticizing others for their success? When you see others succeeding in ways that you want to, or living lives in authentic ways, does it bother you? Do you secretly harbor resentment and jealousy because you know deep inside that you aren't living authentically in your own life? Each of us feels fraudulent at times, and maybe even more often than we care to admit. Anyone who tells you that they haven't at one time or another, they've been scared or intimidated when they've stepped outside of their comfort zone, is frankly full of it. We are all scared. Some of us are petrified to do new things or to put ourselves out there for others to criticize or critique. But in order to grow, you have to challenge your old belief systems, your outdated thoughts and feelings about who you think you are, because I bet you that who you are now is not the person you were a year ago, let alone 10 years ago. We all change even if we believe we're making the same choices over time. If you want to be someone who makes an impact in your inner circle or even in your world, you have to understand that you're going to feel a degree of fear and uncertainty at some point, especially when you're at a pivotal point in your endeavor. The real innovators and creators are scared to death, but they move forward in spite of their fear, and you must do the same. If you're scared of doing, being, or having something, then chances are that it's what you need to do. Remember, the more scared you are about a calling, a job, a role, or an opportunity, the more you can be sure that it's something that you have to do. I remember years ago, before I started to do psychic readings for the public, a very psychically gifted friend of mine called me to let me know that she recommended me to join this monthly psychic fair. I was terrified the minute that came out of her mouth. I said, "Are you out of your mind? Holy shit, I've never done this. This is in public." And in the next breath, I said, "Okay, I'll do it." And I faced my fear of showing up in a bigger way. And the result was amazing. The key to overcoming resistance is committing to it and following through on what you know you need to do, because you know that you'll get to where you want to get to in life if you persevere and if you force yourself sometimes to do what you need to do. Plain and simple. When I began to think about writing my book, I knew it was something I had always wanted to do. I dreamed about becoming an author and having a book to give me credibility about my work as a psychic therapist. Even when I sat down to write the book at first, I really didn't give it my all. I mean, I wrote an outline about a few things and then wrote intermittently over a year's time. And trust me, I had a lot of fearful thoughts. Resistance was alive and kicking inside my head. Then I read The War of Art, and everything changed for me. The moment that I finished that book, I sat my butt down every day to write my book. And I made sure that I was in my office every day to create a space for new clients to reach out to me or for me to work on new projects that would benefit my business. I made a solid and unwavering commitment to myself that I would get this book done, and once I did that, I finished it in 6 months, and it was published just 4 months later. When you're committed, you practice patience with yourself. You establish structure for yourself. You have the intention to be inspired. You can take action in the face of fear. You accept no excuses. You're prepared on a deeper level to confront your own self-sabotage and actively and consciously fight against any resistance and ego bullshit that comes up into your awareness. You dedicate yourself to mastering your skills, whatever they are. You take that course. You find a mentor. You hire a coach or a trainer. You do whatever it takes to accomplish your goals. You don't hesitate to ask for help. You don't take success or failure personally, because if you did, then you would reinforce resistance. You actively use your resistance as your motivator. See yourself in the boxing ring with resistance and knock the hell out of it. That is what you need to do to overcome it and eliminate it for good. There is no mystery to overcoming resistance, y'all. It's a decision that is brought about by an act of will. You make up your mind to view yourself successful and accomplished. You just do it. I wish you blessings on your journey to overcome resistance in your life. If I can overcome resistance in my life, I really believe you can too. I believe in you, and I have faith in you that you can accomplish whatever you put your mind to. And if for some reason you find yourself doing laundry instead of chasing your dreams, well, stop immediately and refocus. Laundry can't wait. It's your dreams that can't. Thank you for listening today. I hope this episode has given you permission to stay focused and dedicated to whatever you dream about accomplishing. Nothing worth having is easy. You know that. That's why we feel such pride when we do what we set out to do. I wish you a wonderful day, a blessed week, and as always, live intuitively.
Thanks for listening to The Intuitive Therapist with Janice R. Cohen. If you like what you heard, the best compliment you can give us is to share this podcast with a friend and subscribe, rate, and review at iTunes.